this is Sandy Nightpaver. Welcome back to my channel, Running Wild. And if you watch my Silverton, Colorado video and see the Christmas tree in the background, you will know that I am at my dad's house. And I'm honestly not ready to talk about why I'm actually here. And I don't know if it'd even be fair to my family at this time. But basically, I don't know if you've heard the song by Matt Kearney, Closer to Love. There's a lyric that goes, "We're all just one phone call from our knees." And that kind of explains some things. Basically, my twin sister Ray and we got a call in Colorado, and a phone call in Colorado, and it's just one of those phone calls where you just kind of drop everything, you get stuff together, and then we started the drive to Ohio. Yeah, so now I am here. I'm here indefinitely right now. So I'm gonna miss the end of summer mountain running. Well, it would be a good thing, honestly, if I miss the end of summer mountain running. But the great thing about the mountains is that they'll always be there. They'll be there when I get back and when I'm ready to go play again. For right now, as much as it's hard for me to be here, for the reason I'm here, I am still grateful that I am with my family. And I wasn't going to vlog for a while, but then I realized one of the ways I deal with things is to stay busy. And so this is basically that. And so this video today, I'm just going to show you a little bit about where I grew up, Parma Heights, Ohio, and I'm going to show you my go-to running route while I'm here and practice what I preach and finding an adventure anywhere. And fun little thing, if you want to, after watching this video, you can, in the YouTube search, type in Parma State of Mind and you'll see a little bit more about where I grew up. That probably shows a little bit more, well, it definitely shows more the negative side. And to be honest, I struggled growing up here at times. But now I'm at a point in my life where I can choose what memories I want to focus on. And now I think of the good things and I appreciate the harder memories because they help make me who I am right now. And I honestly, I think I've grown a lot and I like who I am. So even in really tough situations, I can find something positive to focus on. And yeah, so again, I'm just going to show you my go-to running route in Parma, Ohio, which is known for its potholes, Polish food, and pink flamingos. And not real pink flamingos, those pink flamingos, the plastic pink flamingos you see in people's yards. So definitely has its quirks, but this time of year, I actually feel like it's so green here that there's a lot more beauty, at least than in the winter. Winters I always struggle here the most, so time to go run. Okay, so here we have my high school, which maybe I'll talk a little bit more about later. Stop by on the way back from my run, but the track is over there, and this is the high school itself. So for the longest time, for this building right here, that's where the pool is, and the L was missing to the sign that says pool, and so it just said poo for a long time. I was not a huge fan of high school. Maybe I'll talk about that later. Not used to such sidewalk running anymore, but that's okay. I'll take what I can get. But at least I can run a couple miles to a decent bike path. Still hit a lot of stoplights and have to cross the street a ton, but you know, you take what you can get and you make the most of it. Traffic light number 3. Still got a couple more to go. Hasn't even been a mile yet. Obviously, not my normal run to use, but still home. It's how I grew up, how I started running. Okay, so I really hate this next light I never hit it at a good time, and you really have to have a walk sign to cross safely, but you have to press the button for the walk sign to come on, and I always miss it. And so I have to wait for like a whole light section to go through. So I'm always standing here a couple minutes, right next to the Dunkin' Donuts. So maybe one day I should just stop for coffee and a donut while I'm waiting. See, missed the light this time. Not gonna make it because there's no walk sign. Too dangerous to cross without it. Here we go, made it to the bike path. Takes a couple miles and a bunch of stoplights, but it's worth it. I'll get to be in the shade for a little bit. And this next section, I don't think it's like 3/4 of a mile long, but it is really beautiful in its own right. And really the closest thing I had to a trail growing up. So here it is. Today. So on one side of this path is a road, and then on the other side of the creek are houses, but you know, you save a little bit of forest and a place for wildlife, and they do what they can with this area. So there's always deer here that I love to see. They're so pretty here with their white tails. Lots of baby deer, so maybe we'll get lucky today, but always nice to say hi to my dear friends. So this bike path, it's not very long, and I still have to cross the street all the time, so that I miss about Boulder. But what I love about being on this bike path is I'm in the shade, which today I think it's gonna be close to 90 and super humid. So it was a little hot running into the path, but then I get in the shade. Like, this is great. It's like 10 degrees cooler, just pleasant. So I do miss all this greenery and shade sometimes. This really pisses me off. Like, who just decides to leave this when there's tons of animals around? I don't want to touch it, but I'm going to because it's not okay for the animals. It's really easy for me to get mad about stuff like this because now I have to carry it on my run, but at the same time try to raise awareness and bring people connection to nature, to want to treat it as their home and with respect to the animals' home. So instead of just getting mad, it's better to actually do something and try to have that, bring that connection to nature to other people. So gonna be upset, but gonna do something about it. Don't worry, as soon as I threw the trash out, I found hand sanitizer to get rid of any germs on my hands. Here we go, the street crossing. And yet another street crossing. Last one for this route, although I'm gonna do a couple loops of this. So I'll be here again. So as you can see, we made it to the end of the bike path, which ends at Walmart, which seems very Parma-esque. But yeah, unfortunately it ends. I'm not as far as I'd like to be in my run, and so I could add on or like do a loop on the cement or go farther for just one long out and back. But honestly, it's easier to stay in the shade and in the trees, see some deer and some other wildlife. So I think I'm just gonna do a few out and backs on this path to make up the miles before I start heading home. So, all right, here we go. Hi, babies. Hi, babies. It's okay. some cute kids. So I swung by my high school track, which I've lived next to pretty much my entire life. And this is by far, the nicest I have ever seen this track. I've never seen lines painted like this, and they also repaved it. They must have done this less than a year ago, because whenever I use this track, there was potholes on the track, lanes would be flooded when it rained, and just a really gritty Midwestern track. But it's really nice to see it like this and give the kids or teenagers, young adults who run here a little bit something better to work with. So really happy to see this, but I'll talk more about high school and growing up here a little bit more later when I'm less sweaty. But I actually didn't run track or cross country in high school, but I've been running way before that. I loved running. I remember spending nights, mornings, summers here doing track workouts, and really just sometimes just doing it for fitness, because I loved it, and sometimes working out some issues I had growing up. You remember running here in the dark, in the snow, blasting Paramore in my MP3 player, and it was really just a therapy session. But yeah, I always get a kick coming to this track because every single middle school, remember this is a high school track, every single middle school track in Boulder is way nicer than this, and it makes me appreciate growing up here and not having that. So, because in Boulder, just like, I think at least all the parents I know in Boulder, they're gonna do a good job of letting their kids know, like, this is not how most people live in Boulder, or Boulder is not how most people live. But growing up here and now living in Boulder really gives you a different perspective. So even though I had a hard time here, I'm really appreciative of the years I spent here and the perspective it gave me before moving to Colorado. So, oh, actually, yeah, speaking of middle school tracks, like, my middle school didn't even have a track. Yeah, we would just run around the parking lot if you wanted to run laps or something. So, oh, Boulder. So it is the next day, and I don't have too much time, but I didn't forget that I said I would talk about high school and how I got started into running. So actually starting before high school, I would run just because I loved it, or fitness for other sports, and I was doing this even in elementary school, and definitely middle school too. My dad will still tell stories to anyone who will listen that his friends would see me and my twin sister Ray running a couple towns over, and my dad would tell them that we ran from the house, and they're like, there's no way they ran that far. But we were never on a team or anything. And even in high school, I didn't run cross country. I didn't run track. In high school, I just played basketball and was pretty all in with that. But I would still run for fitness and because I loved it all the time, or sometimes just to blow off some steam. I was telling you at the track, I would go there and do some sprints or intervals, even in the dead of winter when it was already dark out. And I did love it. But the reason, if I'm being honest, of why I didn't choose to run in high school, even though I loved it, one, I live in Cleveland, or Parma Heights is a suburb of Cleveland, and we are a very team sport oriented city, and so runners were just not given much attention. It's not like this is a city where you see runners all the time. In fact, just running on the sidewalks to the bike path, I always get some weird looks. What is this chick doing? Especially, like, it's been close to 90s here, and so people just think I'm crazy. But a lot of people respect it too. I will say that. But honestly, the main reason is because, maybe I can get some pictures here, is that my body was much different when I was younger, and I didn't feel that I looked like a runner. And no one told me that, you know, my body type wasn't for running at that period. So it goes to show that how strong of a role the media plays, because I know it's because I always subscribed to sports magazines, and I always loved all women's sports, and I would look at pictures of female runners and think they're beautiful and they don't look like me. Like, I will never have that lean body type. And given that part of that, like, I thought I was eating healthy at the time, but I really wasn't. And it was just a healthy lifestyle that didn't make me feel good physically in my body, even though I was always incredibly active. But it's still, it's such a, it's hard for me to say that, because I know young girls still think that, when really any body type is for running. And, you know, I love that the sport of ultra running and trail running really shows that. And definitely road races now too, but the problem is that in the media, there's still often a certain body type for running that seems to be most respected. And so, yeah, that's honestly one of the biggest reasons I didn't run in high school, is because I just didn't feel like I had the body for it. And so that's why it's so important to me to spread that message now. It's like, no, any body type is for running. Any age is for running. Like, as long as you can run a few minutes, like, you're a runner. Yeah. What else? Oh, I think I was going to talk a little bit else about high school, because I mentioned it was a hard time for me. There were some good memories and stuff, but throughout my life, since I was a little kid, I was incredibly shy, and I had a lot of social anxiety, and that was very much played out in high school as well. For example, I remember, I think it was my AP English class, where we had to give a speech, and classmates were supposed to give some helpful criticism or feedback, and I barely got through that speech. I was shaking, and literally shaking, body shaking, voice shaking, the entire speech. And the first comment back from a student was, she needs to stop shaking, and just commenting on how my voice was. And luckily, I had a really nice English teacher, and I don't remember what she said. I wish I did, but it made me feel better that I at least tried my best, and that even though I was scared that I did it, but I was still I was very aware of how nervous I was and how I sounded, and that's something that still struggle with a little bit today. My social anxiety is definitely significantly better. A lot of it's because I do, you allow me to practice through YouTube, and don't always, I know people definitely notice the way I speak, but I am still self-conscious about it, because I think just so many years of just trying not to talk, and just being in my head a lot, where you don't have to form full sentences, or your thoughts can jump around in your head, and, you know, no one's gonna notice if there's not this perfect order, or it's not fluid, and that just being in my head comes out in how I talk. And I feel like, or what I've told myself, is that it makes me sound less intelligent than I actually am, even though I have all these credentials. Not that that even matters, that let me know I am smart and intelligent. I still feel like the way I talk makes it come off like I'm not. So that's one of those things I still tell myself that I'm working on, but YouTube has really been exposure therapy at times. But despite that, in high school, I had some really hard times. Like I was, like I also took like AP art, and in my senior year, like none of my friends were in my lunch period, and so I was the kid who would take my lunch to the art room and just work on art projects during lunch. But I did have some really good friends within high school who I'm still friends with today, and they were all like very extreme extroverts, which was good for me because it took the pressure off me having to speak, and it allowed me the space to be myself a little bit more. But yeah, and in high school, I think part of the problem was too, like I thought I was eating healthy, but I didn't really know what healthy eating was. I never got enough sleep. And part of it was because like the boys basketball team, they always practiced before school early, and the coach allowed me to come. And so I would wake up, me and my twin sister, Ray, we'd wake up really early, because our school started early too, to practice an hour before school. And then we'd practice for a few hours after school. I always had the mentality like first one in, last one out. And because you hear that, like that's what it takes to be great. But in high school, you really need the sleep. And I think because I worked so hard, both in athletics and school, like I would stay up working on projects till really late. I never got enough sleep, and so I was never able to reach my potential in school athletics. And it definitely made my mood suffer, and it hurt my appetite and how I was growing. So if I could go back to high school, the one thing I would tell myself is to get more sleep, even if that means not practicing so much. Because yeah, that really hurt me, and it hurt everyone now that I realize it. Like I think the boys basketball team, they had so many resources at their hand, and you had what you thought was a really good coach. But I think soon after I graduated, that coach left, and another coach took over, and they didn't think the team was going to be as good, but that new coach immediately cut the morning practice, told the players to get more sleep, and I'm pretty sure they actually did significantly better those years after. And it just kind of shows that like all teenagers, younger and young adults, sleep matters a lot. So there is the bigger story of how I got into ultra running and trail running in college, but that's a whole nother story in itself. So I'll leave it where it's at today, running out of time actually. So yeah, hold me accountable to that. I'll tell you how I got into trail running and ultra running in college on another video. I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you like this, subscribing and liking the video, it really does help me, give me the space to make more videos. Yeah, sorry, I just like my mind is in two different places. As I said, it's a bit of a, it's not a bit, it's an extremely hard time for me and my family. So thank you for giving me a little mental break from that. And until next time, keep serving and growing with a compassionate heart, and keep on running wild.